Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be learning all about escorted or guided traveling. This has definitely always been a very popular way to explore destinations and learn about different countries or new countries and new cultures. So I'm definitely curious to hear how this type of travel is making changes to accommodate traveling during COVID. So this travel or guided travel or escorted travel, it is available worldwide, but today we're going to focus specifically on escorted travel in Iceland today. So Iceland's definitely gained tons of popularity over the last few years, mostly especially due to its unique landscape and culture. So before we get started, I do have a few tips for any of our new viewers. This is a live presentation, so there can be moments when your screen does freeze. Please be patient. It should correct itself in about 30 seconds or so. If you are viewing today on a handheld device, you may want to unlock your device to the screen or to the landscape mode and just turn it sideways. So just like that. Not sure if that showed up so well, but we do also have a Q&A chat function that's available on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session with our experts, so please post your questions in the chat and we will ask them during this time. Okay. So joining us today, we have Ron from Colette Tours. We have Gregory, who is a tour guide for Colette in Iceland. And we also have Deanna from our Self Vacations Edmonton branch, who's going to share her personal memories of her trip to Iceland. So to start us off, before we hear from Ron, we do have a quick video from Colette Tours about Iceland. Oh, those are some fantastic Northern Lights photos. So thanks for joining us today, Ron. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me, Sherry. Very excited to talk about Iceland.
Good, awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about Colette and maybe explain to us what guided touring is as well?
Absolutely. Great question. Well, we are the oldest family-owned tour operator in North America, and we're very excited to be heading into our 103rd touring season. And we have 160 tours to all 7 continents. And Colette doesn't really just have one type of tour. We have 5 distinctive travel styles, and each tour is uniquely designed to fit the guest's travel needs. We're much more of a premium operator, 4-star, 5-star experience. But the one question I keep getting is, why go on a guided tour? And I'd like to say travel is the true educator. It's one of the few things that we can buy that enriches our lives. And going on a pre-planned guided tour, it actually saves you money around 35 to 40% than doing it independently on your own. All the details are taken care of, including your flights, comprehensive sightseeing, major attractions, most meals, deluxe accommodations. You get to experience things you would not on your own. It's like traveling with a local, and you always have someone to explore it with, the camaraderie. And, I always say planning a big trip and doing it yourself can be very stressful and unfamiliar with the landscape and terrain. But a tour director, by your side with all your transfers and excursions are thought out and planned ahead, that allows you to just sit back and enjoy your epic journey. And people always think there's a big misconception that you're on the coach all day. You're really on the coach maybe 30% of the time, and there's really plenty of time for independent explorations. And I will have Greg tell you or share a story of a couple that we met traveling together in Vik, because they were doing a self-drive in Iceland in the middle of winter to try to track down those aurora borealis or the northern lights. And, I'm talking about explorations. That's one of our travel styles that's really emerging. And we're seeing a significant increase in bookings for next year and into 22. It's called Explorations by Colette. It's really small group touring reinvented. It has an average of 12 to 15 travelers. Smaller groups allow travelers to discover the world in more of an intimate way. These tours really deliver those personal, authentic experience. They take you along the road less travel, deep into the culture, It really focuses on the hands-on culinary discoveries, cultural immersion, unique accommodations that really capture the destination, which Greg will kind of walk us through virtually through Iceland. And, I always say really get a new perspective of the world. So it's more the antiquities, cultures, and flavor. But we have one small group tour that goes to Iceland. It's called Icelandic Adventure. And it is a country of dramatic contrasts, landscapes forged by ice and fire. And I've been there 4 times, and I can't wait to get back soon.
That's awesome. Well, I haven't been anytime. I would love to go anytime. What sets Colette apart from other major guided tour companies?
We have great competitors, and but I always say Colette has certainly evolved in the tour guided space since 1918. From our experience, we apply today. But the Colette difference is really to give the traveler more peace of mind, more expertise, more on tour, more needed flexibility. Traveling with Colette really comes with benefits that take the guided travel to another level through cultural experiences and culinary inclusions. Travelers are seeking or wanting more personalization and customization while on tour, and Colette has pioneered its on-choice tour. This is whereby the guest picks an included excursion they like best on selected days. And in Iceland, you can take a horseback riding excursion or take a photo tour with Icelandic horses. You also get to choose to embark on a guided hike to a glacier or venture on a walkthrough on a rugged lava field. Now, the Colette guests can leave really the stress and hassle in getting to and from the airport. With any air-inclusive bookings we provide, a private door-to-door sedan service. I would say the journey really starts and ends at the door. Lastly, our talented tour directors. It's like traveling with a friend. You'll know what I mean when you hear my good friend and colleague, Greg Hall, talk about this spectacular and remarkable country.
Okay, awesome. Now, the burning question, has Colette operated any tours since COVID halted everything in March?
Yes, we did not suspend all tours. We've resumed operations in the U.S.
Yeah.
What is currently operating are domestic U.S. tours for U.S. residents. We are a global company. I want to be mindful and Canadian-centric on the non-essential travel advisory and the 14-day quarantine period. But we do plan on running tours to Iceland and other countries by next spring. I always say there's no denying that life and travel will look a little different for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
Which is why we work with our partners and vendors all over the world to enhance protective measures for our guests. Each guest that travels with us really deserves a memorable and fulfilling travel experience. The guests and the travelers' well-being remains our top focus and priority. We call it the Traveling Well experience. We've created a full landing page that outlines all the safeguards and protocols we put in place. Our tours will operate with a number of empty seats to allow guests to space out for more comfortable experience. So on average, tours will run 35 to 40% of the seats open to allow for that good physical spacing. And what we've done too is our guides have been trained on the COVID, our hotels with repurposing lobbies, also our Colette Compass app. It allows all the information to be put on an app, so there's no handouts. I can go over every item. It would take me about an hour. But the one thing is I just want to give more assurance when it comes to insurance. Colette's leading industry travel protection plan gives the traveler added security and flexibility, and it includes a full money back assurance should they have to cancel 24 hours prior to departure. It covers COVID and pre-existing conditions. This is real peace of mind.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Ron. We'll have you back for the Q&A session at the end. And before we get started with Greg, he did bring a video to share with us too. So Kim, if you can cue up the video, that would be great.
What makes me love my job and being a tour manager is the fact that I get to bridge cultures for people. I get to share places that I have discovered, or even places where I grew up, with people who may have never been there before, and opening them up to the beautiful diversity that this world has to offer. This job allows me to show people the differences in this world so that they can appreciate what they have back home and they can learn about what the rest of the world is doing. I think at the end of the day, that's my favorite part of it. is really showing people that there's a big, beautiful world out there.
Oh, that's an awesome video, Greg. I bet you enjoy your job. I would enjoy your job.
Yeah, I can say I've been going through a microphone envy and withdrawal syndrome lately. I miss my job.
I bet you do. So how are you, Greg? I didn't even ask you that.
Oh, I'm doing well, thank you. Yourself?
Great, thank you. So can you tell us, is Iceland open for business? Are they accepting travelers right now?
Well, it's a yes and no answer to that question. It depends on your nationality. Anybody who is a citizen of the European Union or a state that's in the European Economic Area or the European Free Trade Area or a UK national currently until the end of the year, they are permitted to travel to Iceland. If you don't hold those citizenships, you cannot. But they are taking tourists in from other parts of Europe. You have to go through a pre-travel registration, 5-day quarantine, including a test when you arrive, and a second negative test needed at the end of that 5-day quarantine before you're released into Iceland. So if you happen to have the right nationality, you can get in there.
Okay. And so why would travelers want to choose Iceland as a place to visit? What makes it your favorite spot, and why would I want to go there besides these beautiful photos that I've been seeing?
Yeah, thank you. When I started the tour, it was before we saw this big boom in tourism. If you go back to 2001, they were bringing in about 296,000 people, so not quite their population. And they hit a peak of 2.3 million people. So if you had asked me that question in the beginning, most people back then were going to see Iceland because it was one of the last places they hadn't seen yet. There are a lot of well-traveled people who are going there. And then over the years, with that famous volcano, Eyjafjallajökull, that went off in 2010 it was, and stopped the air travel, you started to see an increase. And then the Northern Lights started to drive people in. But just imagine that this island, about 1.8 million years ago, just appeared out of the middle of the North Atlantic between Greenland and Scandinavia and has been spreading since. So it's the youngest geological mass in the world. And that right there attracts rockhounds and geologists from all over the world to go and experience that. But then you have things like the progressive nature of the country, I think, is one of the things that attracts people. They elected the first female president of any country in the world in 1980, Vigdís Finnbogadóttir, or in 2009, the first openly gay prime minister, Jóhanna Sigurðardóttir. They were the first country in 2008 to force employers who employ more than 25 people to close the gender gap, period. And so they're coming up this year on closing that. And a fun link to Canada, the first European to ever make it to the so-called New World was Leif Erikson in the year 1000. You know, that predates Christopher Columbus by a good 5 centuries. You know, that's in L'Anse aux Meadows out in Newfoundland. So there's all of those reasons. And then when you go to Iceland, it's impossible to really describe the beauty of the nature. It's almost like a dramatic beauty that spreads out in front of you. And I've seen it every single month of the year under different lighting conditions. It never ceases to amaze me. I work in 34 different countries as a guide. It's the only place you will see me carrying my heavy camera equipment every single day.
Well, and all these photos that we're all enjoying, they're all your photos, right?
They are indeed, yes.
That's awesome. They're beautiful. So can you tell me sort of what kind of tours does Colette offer in Iceland specifically? What are the sizes like of the tours and where are they visiting?
We have 3 different itineraries in Iceland, and those are spread over Icelanders don't really have 4 seasons. They have 2 seasons. And 2 of our tours are during the summer season and 1 during the winter season. If we talk about the summer season ones first, there's what we call our classic tour. Now, under normal operating conditions, we'd have about up to 44 people on those tours. Obviously, with COVID, we're not doing that. With the preventative measures we have, I believe that one's capped right around 20, 22 people, something like that, so that we can space properly on the coach. So essentially, it's become a small group tour. That's what our numbers are for small groups. And that one really hits the highlights It's really geared towards people of all ages and activity levels. The choices on tour that Ron was referring to earlier, one will be geared to slightly more active people. One will be geared to those who want to take it a little bit easier. And it really hits all of the highlights on the island. And that includes almost every single picture you see in a brochure for Iceland is the South Coast. So we do the South Coast, obviously the Reykjavik area, and the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, where the journey to the center of the earth began in Jules Verne's story. Then we have our Icelandic adventure. Now this one of our local guides, his name is Thor, which is just absolutely awesome. And Thor was talking about, when we were first offering this program, how to explain it to people for activity levels. And I love the way he put it. He said, well, what we do here is for people in their 60s and their fit 70s. So I think if you take the explorations tours in that vein, again, we try to balance the activity levels. But that one hits the north of the island, which fewer tour companies go to. And we go into places that almost no tour groups go to at all on that particular one. And that includes things like getting in a rib boat to go whale watching. What else do we do? We go hiking on a glacier on that one. We've used some spectacular collapsed lava formations and lava tubes. Visit some of the caves there. Absolutely just spectacular stuff. And then the last tour that we have is our winter tour. That's our Magical Northern Lights tour. Now, that one we've been running since 2016. All of a sudden, it became this popular thing. We're still actually a little bit baffled at why it is, but it attracts people from all over the world. And that one is essentially our summer program just without the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. It's one less day, but the big focus for this one is going out and hunting for the Northern Lights every single night that we are there. And I can tell you right now, there have been solar flares and geomagnetic storms that have been taking place. They have been seeing some wonderful Northern Lights over the last couple of weeks. And this is very promising because we're at a solar minimum right now, and we're going to start ascending to a solar maximum over the next 5.5 years. So solar activity is going to get greater, meaning hunting for the Northern Lights is going to get even better and better and better over the next few years.
Awesome. So there's lots and lots of things that you must see and must do in Iceland. Can you talk about some of those? What are some of your absolute favorites?
It really depends. The must-sees and the must-dos, I have come to find it depends on the person coming there, and there's a wide breadth of them. I think in marketing terms, probably the biggest thing that everybody is expecting to do and looking forward to do on our tours is go to the Blue Lagoon. Everybody's heard about the Blue Lagoon. They had a brilliant marketing strategy a few years ago, and so that's almost always planted in people's minds. But then you find personal interests come out very quickly. There's some people who absolutely want to go and see the Icelandic horses. And, in one of our tours, we actually ride them. Some of them are there because they're avid geologists and they want to see the geological formations and the open rift valley that we see when we're there. It draws people from all over the place. And again, the Northern Lights, you keep seeing the pictures, but that really has been a big surprise. I think that's what contributed to 2.3 million people going there in 2008. That's 6 times the population of the island that year. It's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. So the scenery that we've been viewing, it's amazing. Can you tell me what's your favorite scenery of all in Iceland?
Definitely the Tuya Mountains. I think those are probably the most spectacular. And when I talk about them on tour, I let people know that their formation is the sexiest form of geology that there is. There's something called, and there's a Tuya Mountain in the background right there. It's behind Glístoffa. It's a little famous house in the north. Those mountains right there formed with a fissure eruption, which means it's like a big scar that's opening up in the earth. In layman's terms, it's called an Icelandic eruption. But that happened during the last ice age when there was a couple of miles of ice over the top of it pushing down. So instead of the eruption flying out and spreading, it remained stacked down. And in the winter months, you can actually see the layers of lava at the very top. That's probably my most favorite thing to see while we're there and to point out. And I didn't quite answer your question earlier. You had asked what my personal favorite thing to do in Iceland is. Believe it or not, it's actually not anything that we do as an included feature of the tour. It's after hours on the south coast of the island. We stay in a hotel, which is right near an original settlement farm. And once the day is done and the bar is closed and everything is quiet, I walk just 5 minutes over into the next valley, and there's a glacial outwash river. I just love going and standing in the middle of it, and you can hear the wind blowing and the water rustling past, and it's just an amazing feeling. You almost feel like you're alone in the planet. It's a wonderful experience.
Awesome. So what would you recommend for a newbie going to Iceland?
Great question. The most important thing is almost any other tour that you'll do or any other place that you go and visit, you're going to be dressing or thinking that you want to dress to impress. That's not the approach that you want with Iceland. Regardless of summer, regardless of winter, you want to dress for the weather. When we do these organized tours, we leave Reykjavik. We go and spend time away from the city. And Reykjavik is the only city on the island, but outside of Reykjavik and 4 towns, there are no other places where the population goes above 10,000. So you're really out in nature, and you have to be prepared for that. So waterproof boots, waterproof pants, waterproof jackets, thinking layers. Depending on whether you come from a warmer or colder climate, long underwear in the winter is something that comes into consideration. I think that's the number one thing that you need to keep in mind as a newbie going there. After that, when you get there, tour guides, tour managers, we're there to help point you in the right direction, depending on what museum you might want to go visit or what features you're interested in seeing. We'll let you know when you're going to see them.
Okay. And what about the hotels that you use? Are they conveniently located? Are they spread out? Are they in rural areas or in the cities?
Well, in Reykjavik and in Akureyri, which is the capital of the north, they have about 12,000 people in that town. We have centrally located hotels. We're smack dab right in the middle of everything. As a matter of fact, our primary hotel in downtown Reykjavik is within, I would say, about 100 meters from the official marker of the center of town and for where all distances are measured in Iceland. So it's I don't think it gets more centrally located than that. Then when we're out in the countryside is countryside, which is the beautiful thing. And that hotel I was telling you on the south coast, where there was even some Game of Thrones filming that took place up above it in the cliff sides there. It is perfectly located for what we have planned during that tour. So we stay there for 3 nights, but it centrally locates us for all the activities that we do on the south coast. So it's centrally located, but in a different way.
Okay, perfect. And someone told me I need to ask you about white nights. What's white nights in Iceland all about?
Yes, the white night. So because you are just below the Arctic Circle, you're in a spot in the world where the nights get shorter in the summer and they get longer in the winter. The picture that you're seeing there over Faxaflói Bay is a picture that I took at 2:30 in the morning on June the 4th. I remember the date because I had a lot of really crazy transfers. It's one of the few times I didn't get as much sleep on our departure transfers, but I profited from being able to go out and do this. On one of our tours, we even had some guests at our hotel in Stykkishólmur. It's right next to a golf course, and they went and played golf at 11:30 at night, if you can imagine.
Oh,
So that's
awesome.
what they are. And the converse to that is in the winter, right around the solstice in winter, you have only about 4.5 hours of solid sunlight at that time. But that's what makes it great for hunting the northern lights, because you need the darkness of night to do that. So there are trade-offs and benefits in both directions.
Okay. And now on to my favorite thing, which is food and drink. Can you tell me what are some of the unique food and drink items that I would have to try if I was visiting?
Well, if there's one thing I tell everybody to try, and believe me, my father was a Frenchman. I am as well. So it astounds me to this day that I do this, but I recommend the Icelandic hot dog.
I can't believe a hot dog.
The hot dog. And hey, there are two hot dogs right there, prepared in what they call een met het, which is one with everything. So you get this hot dog. First off, the hot dog itself is described by one of our local guides as being 70% lamb and 30% better not ask. And you have it with ketchup, with mustard, a special remoulade sauce, raw onions, and crispy onions. Now, I am not a huge fan of hot dogs, I'll be honest with you, but those are really something that you have to try at least once. There you see a fish platter. This is something that I had at the Glacier Bistro, one of the restaurants we use. That was on my off time I went there. If you love seafood, here's some cod. It's absolutely amazing. That's Fiskvelagis, the fish restaurant. This is a kjötsuppa or lamb stew from the Hotel Katla, this is like the touchstone culturally speaking. Grandma's recipe is very important when it comes to their lamb stew in Iceland. And this is the Sea Baron's lobster soup. This is a hole-in-the-wall restaurant. Know that when they say lobster, they're talking about crayfish or crawdads there so that you're not surprised. And then here you have brennivin, which is their schnapps in Iceland, and haukart, which is fermented shark, something that Anthony Bourdain referred to as one of the most disgusting things he'd ever had in his life. Okay, it's not that great, but it's not going to kill you, and it is gluten-free, so it's always worth a shot on our tours. And then here you see some pictures. We actually go trawling on one of our summer programs, and we pull up scallops and have Viking sushi. Right there, out on Breiðafjörður, scallops straight out of the sea with a little bit of soy sauce and some wasabi. It's just spectacular. So, and as a Frenchman, I can tell you that was the one thing that really surprised me about Iceland was the culinary scene there. And a lot of people say that. You go into what you think is a regular restaurant, and you get a plate that's brought out to you. It looks like it's a one-star Michelin chef who prepared it. There's some lamb that I had when I was at the Apotek restaurant in downtown Reykjavik. The lamb, a delicacy. You see that the Icelandic lamb on a restaurant menu in Paris. It's 10% more expensive than the local lamb in France.
Okay. And I was going to ask, what's the most unexpected thing that you're going to encounter in terms of culinary? But I think it's probably the shark.
Yeah, I think the shark is usually the thing that catches people off guard. But it's a fun experience, and I always tell people you have to try it. It's not going to hurt you. It's full of omega-3s. Like I said, gluten-free. It's perfect for vegetarians, pescatarians.
Well, it's definitely unusual, but definitely something to try when you're on holidays.
Absolutely.
So in Iceland, what sort of currency would I need to bring?
Well, what's nice about Iceland is that the country operates with credit cards almost everywhere. So you can use your credit cards wherever you go. And by the way, if you're ever asked, do you want it charged in your home currency or your local currency, always choose the local currency. Do not choose your home currency. It might seem like it's convenient, but you're paying for that convenience. So just a little tip there. What I usually recommend is for about a week's worth of time, you pull out maybe the equivalent of about $50 Canadian per person to get you through the week in case you need them for incidentals, small little things here and there. But by and large, you're fine using your credit card. Just let your banks or your credit card companies know you're going to use them in Iceland.
Okay. And what about language? Is English very easily or readily spoken locally?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, some people in Iceland probably speak better English than some of my friends here at home, to be honest with you. You're not going to have a language barrier. I speak 3 languages fluently, and I studied languages and linguistics, and Icelandic is I'm trying to learn it, and I'm doing my best. I've actually managed to impress some of the locals with my pronunciation of that volcano from 2010, Eyjafjallajökull. But when you listen to an Icelander speaking in English, it is one of the nicest accents I've heard in the English language. It's a very soft accent, and people are sometimes surprised by that as well. But no, no language barrier there whatsoever.
Okay, that's great. That's definitely great to know. So what has been your biggest or some of the biggest wow moments that your previous guests have had on tour?
Wow, there are multitudes of wows in this destination. It's one of the reasons that I request to work in Iceland, because you can see things. Here's a picture I took with a guest's camera. I just set it up for him, and there's a meteor going through the northern lights. How can that not be a wow? If you've never seen a geyser go off before, we walk up and see Strokur go off, and it goes off everywhere from every 5 to 7 minutes, so you're guaranteed to see one going out. If you've never seen glaciers, here we go into Jökulsárlón and we do a cruise in the glacier lagoon in summer. Or you can pick up a piece of glacial ice and hold it in your hand, and you know that it's over 1,000 years old, which means it predates the Industrial Revolution. And when we're there at Diamond Beach, I actually take a huge chunk of that ice back to the hotel with us. We have a whole system set up with the hotel, and you're having 1,000-year-old ice in your beverage that night when you go to dinner.
Wow.
So there's wows aplenty while you're there.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you consider to be the best time of year to visit Iceland?
It really depends on what you want to do. I think any time of year to go there is great. That's my personal opinion. But, if you want to see the northern lights, you don't go in summer, all right? There's too much sunlight into the late hours. You'll never see the northern lights. If you really want to see some of the bird life and activity, Iceland, with its location, attracts migratory birds from Asia, or Eurasia really, from North America, and you even get the Arctic tern that comes up from as far away as South Africa. So the bird life, and the North Atlantic puffin, which a lot of people think is the national bird of Iceland. Technically, that's the gyrfalcon, but the puffin is definitely the marketing bird for Iceland, that's for sure. You want to be there during the summer months to see them. They're not there during the winter. So it's really based on what you want to see. And that's a little bit of reading up and research, and you'll know what time of year you want to go.
Okay. And my last question for you tonight, what is the very best insider tip that you can give us about Iceland?
I think I go back to what I had mentioned earlier about dressing for the weather in Iceland, right? That's always going to be a number one. But if I don't want to repeat myself, a great tip, especially for our Northern Lights program, but any kind of group touring going into Iceland, consider coming in a day early and booking a pre-night for yourself and giving yourself the time to settle into the new time zone. Because Iceland is a slightly more expensive country, being an island in the North Atlantic, giving yourself the time to rest up properly, you really will get more pleasure and get more out of the tour while you're in Iceland. And then if you wanted to, a lot of people will say, oh, I wish I had tagged an extra day or two on to the end of the tour, just to do special extra activities that might not have been included that they heard about. That might be another thing to kind of ponder and consider. Outside of that, once Iceland is open for business, the New York Times just had an article today talking about how Iceland is positioning itself to get ready. And if anybody's interested, it's a good read.
Okay, awesome. I will definitely look into that. So I just want to say thanks so much, Greg, and thanks so much, Ron. We're going to have you both back in a little bit for the Q&A, but up next we have Deanna, who is from our Select Vacations Edmonton office, and Deanna is going to share her vacation memories with us.
Well, hello, everyone. Like Sherry said, my name is Deanna, and I do work out of the Sell-Off Vacations Edmonton branch. I have been with the company for about 6 years now, in the travel industry for 10 years, and I have been to 12 countries, and I must say Iceland would have to be one of my favorite places. So on my trip, my best friend actually lives in Australia, so we decided to meet up in Iceland and rent our car, seeing as we were a bit short on time, so we didn't feel like doing the guided tour would be a good option for us. So we just rented a car and drove around at our own pace, which I must say is very easy. They do drive on the right-hand side of the road, so no shock there for us. But if you do a guided tour, you do get a little bit more history and whatnot. I would recommend adding on some time either before or after to visit the country on your own though. So the first thing that we did in Iceland was drove the Golden Circle. So that's this picture here that you're seeing. The first stop, Thingvellir National Park. So Iceland, definitely a photographer's dream. Photography is a hobby of mine, so I was very excited to get down there. It took us about 8 hours to drive the Golden Circle, and I would highly recommend bringing extra memory cards and batteries, as you really don't want to run out of space on your camera. The second stop on the Golden Circle would be to the geysers. Really cool thing to see. We spent a little bit of time here. They do also have a little gift shop and a restaurant located in this area too. I actually got one of my favorite pieces of jewelry at the little gift shop here made out of lava rock. So definitely recommend checking that out. And I have a little video here of the geyser going off. So I actually had my sunglasses kind of hooked onto my shirt. While we were running away from all of this lovely water here, they actually fell off and I lost them. So on the video, you can kind of see them falling off. So I actually got the whole thing on camera. I still miss those sunglasses. Yeah, it was really cool to see the geysers going off. And the third stop on the Golden Circle would be Gullfoss Waterfall. My favorite thing about this waterfall is I didn't find that it was overly crowded. So if you were looking for that perfect photo with not too many people in it, this would be the spot to get that. And it was just really beautiful. The scenery in Iceland is absolutely amazing. There's photo opportunities all over the place. And I have a little video of the waterfall here after. And while we were driving, we noticed that there were some hitchhikers down the side of the road, and they seemed pretty friendly. So we decided to pick them up and drive them as far as we could down the road. When you're driving in Iceland, you can pull over pretty much anywhere, and we ended up doing a little hike. I always bring my Polaroid camera with me on vacation, so we actually took a little photo for them, and they had it as a souvenir. So they will always remember meeting two lovely Canadians. When we were done driving around the Golden Circle for the day, we did park our car and went for a walk into Reykjavik. This is a picture of the Sun Voyager sculpture. It was taken pretty late in the evening, so as you can see, the sun doesn't really set completely, which gives you plenty of time. You literally have all day to explore and get to see all of the different things that Iceland has to offer when traveling in the summer. And another example here of the lovely Icelandic language. I'm not going to try and pronounce these ones. I will try my best on some of them, but it's quite a difficult language to try and pronounce for sure. One of the nice things about this waterfall and a lot of the other, different activities that you can do in Iceland is they're pretty close to the parking lots. So this one here, for example, is really only about a 20-minute walk from where you would park your car. If you do have any type of mobility issues or anything like that, a lot of the attractions are pretty easily accessible. So you don't need to worry about that too much. And this waterfall here would be one of my favorites. You actually get to walk right up in behind it, which is really cool to be able to get these kinds of photos. I would recommend wearing a rain jacket when you do this one, as it does get quite wet in behind the waterfall there. And you want to make sure you bring a good pair of walking shoes as well, as you do spend a lot of time walking around. And one other day, we did decide to venture a little bit farther out of town. So we did go to, I'll try and pronounce it, Vatnajökull Glacier, which is actually the biggest glacier in all of Europe. So this picture doesn't really do it justice. It actually goes on for quite a ways outside of the photograph. So it was a massive, massive glacier. Really cool to see. And you can kind of see part of the glacier in the background there. But this would be the lagoon, Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. So there's lots of different things that you can do in this area. They were offering boat tours and things like that. It's also where Diamond Beach is located. We actually couldn't find Diamond Beach. So this would be a good idea. If you were on a tour, you definitely wouldn't have that problem. So something to keep in mind there. But yeah, we couldn't find Diamond Beach. And here's my friend Nat just having some photo fun. A lot of people were taking photos. It's a very, very beautiful spot to definitely recommend visiting. And then just touching on some of the wildlife. The seals were swimming around pretty much the whole time we were here. Lots of wildlife everywhere. If you're into bird watching, it's a bird watcher's paradise for sure. There's also lots of whale watching and things like that that you can do. And of course, the cute little puffins you can see here in the summertime too. So lots and lots in terms of wildlife. And when you're driving around, again, the scenery in Iceland just takes your breath away. There's waterfalls literally everywhere. So prime example here, just driving down the road, good old farmer's field, waterfall in their backyard. I wish I had a waterfall in my backyard. That would be pretty cool. So this here, definitely my highlight in Iceland. We were getting ready for our excursion. So we're just at the bus terminal here, going inside a volcano. So this is just an example of the hike up to get to the volcano that you can kind of see off in the distance there. Pretty easy terrain. I do recommend layering your clothing. You definitely want to be prepared for the weather. This hike does take about an hour each direction, so something to keep in mind if you do decide to take this tour. And again, an example of the lovely Icelandic language. I'm really not going to try and pronounce this one, but this is the name of the volcano that we went inside. So it's quite deep. As you can see, you can fit the Eiffel Tower inside of it. So pretty massive volcano. Now, normally, this is the only volcano in the world, actually, that you can go inside. Normally, when the volcano erupts, it either collapses the whole thing or it kind of blocks off the top there. So for some strange reason, this is the only volcano where the lava just seems to have completely disappeared, which allows you to go inside of it. And then there we are. The tour guide offered to take a photo of us, and there's the top of the volcano that we're going inside there. And if you look closely with the photo of me and Nat, you can kind of see Reykjavik off in the background there. So pretty close to town. And this is the elevator that takes you down inside. So you do have all of the proper equipment they provide you with. You're actually hooked right up to the elevator, and you have your helmet and the lights and everything. Might not recommend doing it if you do have a fear of heights. It is about a 15-minute ride all the way down to the bottom of the magma chamber. And this is just a photo of what it looks like inside a volcano. So pretty cool. Definitely one of the most interesting things I've ever done on vacation. All the different colors are formed from the different minerals in the lava. It was just a very, very good, cool experience to be down there. And that's just, that's a view looking from the bottom up to the top. So you're quite a ways down. And that's just another example of how far down you are. That's a picture of the elevator, bringing more guests down to explore. And my favorite travel photo, they did take a photo of us down there. It's just a really good memento. Being inside a volcano, not many people can say that they've been inside a volcano. So, and here, the lovely Icelandic horses, very, very photogenic creatures. They're found pretty much all over the island. All over the place. Again, great for wildlife. They don't really move, so if you want to take a billion photos of them, you certainly can. And yeah, they're very cute. And again, going back to the scenery, we were just driving down the road and noticed this beautiful scenery. So we decided to pull over and get out, kind of walk around a little bit, and noticed that there was some sheeps down there, and they would look at them just posing for me. And after a long day of driving around and hiking, it was a really nice experience to be able to kind of unwind and go relax in the Blue Lagoon. There are different packages that you can purchase. So the one that we purchased included the free face masks. So you can see where we have the face masks there. So if you are into health and wellness, it's a good spot. There's also lots of geothermal kind of hot springs throughout the island that you can do when you're hiking. So you don't just have to go to the Blue Lagoon. If you want less people, you could go in the morning. And there is a hotel and restaurant on site as well if you get a little bit peckish and want to go for dinner. And the last thing that we did, we ventured quite far north to the northern coast of the island. So again, we had the time to do so because of the long days. So this would be Mount Kirkjuffel. It's one of the most photographed mountains in Iceland, and you can see why. The scenery and landscape up on the northern coast is just amazing. Mind you, it is in all of Iceland, but I actually did bring my tripod on vacation with me specifically to get this photo, and I actually left it in my car, silly me. Had to go all the way back down to my car and then back up to this viewpoint here just to get the photo, but very, very glad I did. It's one of my favorite photos I think I have in Iceland. So and of course, I do have to touch on the food. I am a foodie, so every time I travel, it's one of my favorite parts is getting to try the local cuisine. Definitely no shortage of any of that in Iceland. So here we're having actually homemade ice cream. They make it for you right when you're there. And man, was it delicious. It was a very, very tasty ice cream. And the seafood. Seafood's one of my favorite things to eat, so there was no shortage of that in Iceland, and it was amazing. I think some of the best seafood I've ever had. So here I'm having mussels for lunch at one of the restaurants in Reykjavik. And on one of our last nights, we did decide to treat ourselves. So I do recommend bringing a little bit of extra cash down with you so that you can treat yourselves as well. They do have lots of really fancy restaurants, all sorts of things to eat. So my friend ended up getting the sushi platter, which you can see on the left there. She let me try a raw scallop. It was my very first time trying raw sushi, and I was really surprised at how good it was. And I had shrimp tempura, which is what you can see on the right-hand side there. One of the best meals I had in Iceland. So as you can see, whether you're into nature, bird watching, if you like wildlife, if you're an avid hiker, into health and wellness, if you like to have some adventure, or if you're a foodie like myself, Iceland really does have it all. I had the most amazing time, and I know you will too. So thank you for joining me today on my trip to Iceland. I very much look forward to answering any questions you may have, and I can't wait to help you plan your adventures to this amazing country. I just love talking about Iceland, so even if you're not ready to book, please reach out to me so we can talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deanna. Your photos were beautiful. It looked like you had a fantastic holiday.
Oh, I did.
Awesome. So Shannon, are you with us? How are you today?
I'm very well, thanks, Sherry. That was an awesome presentation.
Yeah.
I've not been to Iceland either, and certainly want to get there now for sure. I do have some questions that came in for sure, so we'll get started with those.
Okay.
Ron, I think I'm going to start with you. The first one here I have for you is, what is the cancellation policy in light of COVID-19 with your tour company?
So with our travel protection plan, it's changed for any reason, full cash refund. So 24 hours prior to departure, no pre-medical, and no age discrimination. They can change their mind even for a bad hair day or find out that I'm their tour manager and get a full cash refund.
Okay.
And
perfect.
if we were to cancel the tour, we would still issue a full cash refund. No future vouchers or no future credits.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Ron. And one more for you. Are there any sales on currently? And the second part of that question is, how early can someone book a tour with you?
So great question. Right now we have a welcome to return of travel. So we're 10% of all our tours all throughout 2021 and into 2022. And we're also allowing guests to change their tour or departure date for any reason up to 60 days, no penalties. And they also have their deposit is fully refundable within 30 days of booking. I would tell people, because of all the pausing on touring in 2020, there is people with future travel vouchers and credits now that had good intentions of traveling, with capacity going down to 50%. Especially a destination like Iceland, because we do have the demand and supply that, I would encourage you, because we're seeing, a lot of bookings, more new bookings than rebookings for Q3 and Q4 of next year and into spring of 2022. So Deanna's right. And the great thing about Iceland. It's not overcrowding. You
Mhm.
you are like isolated, and you got lots of social, physical spacing and distance. So
Okay.
that's why we wanted to present this destination tonight with you.
That's great. That's some really great flexibility and some good insight there as well for booking. That's excellent. Thank you, Ron. I'm going to skip over to you, Greg.
Mhm.
First question here for you is, what time of year can we go see the puffins? Is there a guarantee to see them?
Well, when you're talking about Mother Nature and guarantee, it's always a tough thing. The
Yes.
negotiations are ongoing, but they have a hard time signing the paperwork. In all seriousness, so the North Atlantic puffin spends most of the year out at sea. They're not exactly quite sure, but somewhere between Iceland and Scotland, they believe, at least that particular flock that goes to Iceland. Iceland attracts the largest number of North Atlantic puffin compared to anywhere else in the world. So it
Okay.
definitely increases your chances. They usually come back to the island mid-June. But that first month, Mama and Papa are working on the nest. Mom is watching the egg. And there's little activity then because it's just Pops going out, doing a little bit of fishing for sand eels to make sure that Mom is okay.
Right.
Once the hatchling comes out, you're looking at mid-July. That's when both of the parents are out. And there is a flurry of activity with the North Atlantic puffin then. And it will continue right up until mid-August. And that's when they start to make their way back out to sea. Now,
Okay.
obviously, that can fluctuate by a week here or there. It's Mother Nature after all. But that's kind of the generally accepted calendar for the North Atlantic puffin.
Okay, perfect. And the next one here, Ron, is, do you offer whale watching?
We do. Greg, we have it on, I think, all 3 tours, and also
Nope.
No?
It's just on the Icelandic adventure.
That's it. But
Yeah.
the Flexo Bay, we actually do allow people to go out when they have some leisure time.
Oh, absolutely. That is
Yeah.
something, it's always possible to do it on
Yeah.
any of the tours that we have. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I'm going to skip over to Deanna here. Deanna, someone asked, can we get direct flights, or how do we get there? So I guess that's just a general question. They didn't mention gateway, but
Yeah, so it depends where you're flying from. Edmonton did have a direct nonstop into Reykjavik. I'm not sure when that's going to be starting back up. I know you can fly there direct from Toronto as well. So again, it really just depends on where you're flying from.
yes, and Halifax as well. We've had them, obviously not at the moment, but
Yeah.
certainly we have in the past. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to chime in, and
Yeah.
the flight that I took directly from Toronto nonstop leaves at 9 p.m., arrives at 6:20 because they're 4 hours ahead. The flight
Right.
time's about 5 hours and 20 minutes. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and Deanna, another one here for you. You said you were a foodie in your presentation, so I think this one's a good one for you. What's the best seafood to try?
Definitely the lobster.
Yes.
I know Greg did kind of mention earlier, they call it kind of like the crayfish, but it's lobster, hands down, best lobster I've ever had. They're very, very small tails though, nothing compared to what you would get, say, here in Canada, but very, very good.
Okay, excellent. And another question for you, Deanna, in relation to flights. And if you're not able to answer this, I think I can for you. Someone asked, can we fly direct from St. John's, Newfoundland?
No, you would have to make one stop over. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much. And Ron, I have a couple more for you, and then that will be all our questions for the evening. So I'll pop back to you. Can you tell us some details on the lava caves?
Oh, well, I'm going to pass it on to Greg because I went with him on the lava caves.
Right, okay.
Yes. So Greg, you are the guide, and you actually walked me through it and got rid of my claustrophobic tendencies there. So do you want? I still have those photos.
Yeah, so we go on 2 of our tours. The winter program, we don't do the caves because it can be a bit too dangerous in the winter months to do that. But during the summer program, the 2 different programs go to 2 different caves. Icelandic Adventures, it is a larger cave, one of the larger caves available that you get to walk through. And on our classic summer program, Fire and Ice, we go into Vatnshellir. That's where I made reference earlier in the presentation to the journey to the center of the earth beginning in Jules Verne's book. We visit that particular cave. Like Ron said, it is something that can be a little bit claustrophobic, but when you're down in there, if you remember the beautiful picture that Deanna had up earlier when she was inside the volcano, this is kind of sort of the same thing. But you're not in a volcano cone like she was in. You're in what's called a lava tube. So this is where lava would have been flowing underneath a congealing lava field, and it empties itself out and it leaves these big tubes. And they're actually found all over the island. There's networks of them everywhere because it's a volcanic island. And when you go down in there, you see those magnificent colors from all the various minerals that are found in there. So that's what makes those pretty special.
Okay, perfect. And one more question, and it will be the last one for the evening. Greg, can you see the Northern Lights without being on a tour?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing with the Northern Lights is, number one, it has to be dark enough. If you want to get technical, the center of the sun has to be 12 degrees below the horizon. That's when it gets dark enough. It's called astronomical twilight. Then the next thing is you can't have clouds overhead. Clouds, obviously, it's like pulling the curtains on the display. You might see the clouds in a weird green shimmer, but you wouldn't see it in the Northern Lights display. And then the last thing is solar activity. All right, within the last 48 hours, the sun must have kicked off a solar wind in the direction of the Earth. And so like within 40 to 48 hours, that solar wind hits the planet, and that's what gets attracted in to the big openings up in the sky, up in the North and the South Pole. And those are the plasmas from those winds that are falling in and interacting with oxygen and nitrogen on the way down.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen. Since we started offering the tours, I think I've led the most Northern Lights hunting tours for Colette, 20 of them in total, and there's only one tour I did not see them on.
Okay.
Now, I'm an outlier. I'm actually lucky. That's a 95% success rate, but anecdotally, I would say from talking to my colleagues, success rate 60 to 70%, and remember, it's only going to go up because solar activity is heading towards the solar maximum over the next few years.
Right. Okay. It sounds like everything kind of has to align there, but that sounds fantastic. That's great. Thank you, gentlemen. And Sherry, I'm going to put it back to you.
All right, thanks, Shannon, and thank you to all of our presenters, Ron and Greg and Deanna, and thank you to all the viewers for joining me today. So if you have posted a question and it didn't get answered, Shannon and Pam will be on the chat function for about 10 minutes after the presentation to answer those questions. And our agents love nothing more than to talk travel with you and help you plan a vacation when you're ready to travel. So you are more than welcome to call Sell Off Vacations tonight. The phone lines are open until 9 p.m. Eastern time, and you can reach any one of our agents at 1-877-735-5633. If you are interested in talking Iceland or just escorted touring in general, you can definitely reach out to our featured travel expert today, Deanna. Her email is edmonton@selloffvacations.com. As well, we did record today's presentation and it will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is My Sell Off Vacations. And on that channel, you can also view any of our past presentations as well as the latest resort and airline COVID safety videos. So we do keep adding to that library. If you've been there before, there might be some new ones that you haven't seen. So next Wednesday, we will be talking about vacationing just a little bit closer to home. We're going to be talking about traveling within Western Canada. So we hope you can join us then. See you. Bye-bye. Thank you.